Rightio, and welcome to this lesson on conducting a spindle transfer. So now that we've completed all the machining on the back part of our component, we want to bring the sub spindle up, grab hold of it and transfer it to that sub spindle so we can machine that front nose of our component. Now my feature tree over here with all the operation is starting to get a bit cluttered, and so I have minimized most of my tree so that I don't need to see all these operations. You can just click on the plus and it will expand it out there, so you can see still the operations that are involved there. I've just minimized that to make a bit more room on the design tree. So to do a spindle transfer, that is done through the machine control operations. But before we do the transfer, we need to get our main spindle, upper turret out of the way, as well as the lower turret out of the way as well, there, which again are all controlled in the machine control operations. So I click on the icon. Now that was in the SolidCam operations ribbon bar, and it's the MCO panel there. This is set up and configured by your SolidCam provider and may differ from machine to machine and how it is set up. So it can be as simple or complicated. So luckily this one is rather well set up. So over here in my technologies area, I've got this drop down from the general. I do have my general controls that allow me to do all the main operations within our machine. We've also got retract controls, part transfers. There's a subsection there for transferring from main spindle to sub spindle and vice versa, back the other way, sub spindle transferring it back to the main spindle. There. We've also got an end of program and a couple of operations that can be happening there. But the first thing that we want to actually do is do a retract control, and we'll go for our upper turret. I'm just going to click on that. And that's as simple as it gets. All the parameters are set up for the machine to do that, and it will do it automatically for us. So I'm just going to do a save and calculate operation there. And I do have to exit out of the machine control to add subsequent ones. So I'm going to do a save and exit. And that's now added that additional operation to my operations tree on the left-hand side here. So we've done the upper turret, now we're going to do the lower. So I'm going to go MCO again, over in the Technologies tab section, retract controls, and this time we're going to go lower turret. But what we want is we want to move the lower turret down and towards the main spindle, so then it's out of the road. If we were going to go the other way, the sub spindle would still collide with that. So we want to bring it right out of the way there. So we're going to do that. We get this message here. So what it wants to do is it wants to switch controls between the upper spindle and the upper turret, lower turret. So we're going back to our sub machine turret here. I'm going to go yes, because we were doing everything on our main turret on that side. And again, I don't need to add any additional parameters there. All I need to do is go save, calculate, and I can exit out of that. And that should now add another turret. So here I've got my upper turret retracted and changing to the main turret, the lower turret. I've got the lower turret now moving out of the way. So if I highlight that one and this one and go for a simulation, machine simulation. Okay, now it's loaded. I can manipulate this around. You can see the upper turret and the lower turret. Here I can zoom in, and if I run this, it should, look at that, move the upper turret up and away and up, and the lower turret has come down and moved towards the main spindle there. So now that all we need to do is bring the main sub spindle up to grab hold of the component, and we're going to do that by grabbing a hold of the internal bore that we've already machined into our component here. It's going to hold in the sub spindle. Okay, so that's got that set up there. Now what we need to do is add the sub spindle transfer. So we go back to MCO, general, and we've got our part transfer. So we are going from the main spindle to the sub spindle. So we want a main spindle to sub spindle there, and we're going to do a sub spindle approach. Yes, so I do want to transfer back to that main controls. Okay, so we do need to add some parameters here on that. So it is going to automatically wrap it up to a predetermined position about 20 millimeters off the workpiece. But our clamp position, this is where we want to tell it where we need to clamp. Now, I know that I've got 20 millimeters of jaw that we need to go into. So I'm going to add minus 20 millimeters there. So the soft jaws that we've machined up, it's going to hold on to inside that bore by 20 millimeters. And so that's that parameter that we're going to add to that. I'm going to do a save and calculate and exit. And that's all I need to do on the spindle transfer. On that side of things there, and I'm going to last of all is tell it to end the transfer. So that means that the chuck will unclamp and the sub spindle will track away. So again, in our operations technology, we go to part transfers and we've got transfer end. No need to do any additional operations. If it was a transfer from a part off operation, so we've got both spindles holding on to a part off, we would change this parameter up here, but we're not. We're going to machine off all the part material that it's holding on to. So we're going to do a save and calculate, exit, and that's now added that transfer. So if we do the same again, make sure I've got all my machine operations showing. If I select the top one here, hold down the shift key, it's going to let me do it. There we go. And I've got all my operations, machine control operations selected. Right click, go to simulate, or press V on the keyboard. Go to our machine simulation. Rightio, so if I just manipulate this around so we can see this a bit better. Okay, and so if we hit, I'm just going to slow this down so that we can see it. So that's going to retract out of the way and maneuver. It's going to index around, should move out of its way. Sub spindle should now move up. It's doing its indexing. All this is happening inside those machine control operations. Should do its part transfer, grabs hold of it, and it's now in the sub spindle. So that's as simple as it gets for doing a part transfer there. Rightio. So I can now exit out of my simulation, and that there completes this lesson on spindle transfer.